Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome. We are going to have an exciting session today, conversation with a certified lactation consultant who's going to talk with us all about breastfeeding. Give me just a moment here to get everything all set up. Okay, and let's pin our comment here. Okay, and okay, perfect. Yay. Okay, so we are just waiting for Miss Lashanda.
Hi.
Okay, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for
Can you
joining
hear
us
me okay?
today.
I'm always nervous about these things. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you good. You can hear me good. Thumbs up. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me today on this lovely Sunday to kind of speak about breastfeeding. It's just like a super important thing. But I first want to introduce you. So this is Miss Lashanda Dandrich, everyone. She is an international board certified lactation consultant and also a founder and worker owner of the Uptown Village Cooperative. She has an 11-year-old daughter whom she resides with in Harlem, which I'm also in Harlem too. So kudos to that. And has
Neighbor.
supported tons of families from diverse culturally and socioeconomic backgrounds throughout New York City. So welcome.
Thank you.
I'm
Nice
super,
to nice to meet you face to face, kind of,
I know,
right?
I know. I'm super excited to have this conversation because I feel like, well, one, with breastfeeding, I think we've all kind of heard why it's important, but I think, there aren't really a lot of spaces for moms of color to really kind of experience breastfeeding, to learn about breastfeeding, to be in spaces with other moms who are of similar, who are working, who kind of experience motherhood similarly. So, that I feel like that's super important to talk about and why that's important. But
Yeah.
first of all, please do tell us a little bit about your perspective on breastfeeding and why women should definitely breastfeed their
Do
babies.
it. Do it. Do it. Well, I'm kind of, it's going to be a biased conversation because I am a lactation consultant and I love breastfeeding. But but I was really birthed, get that, into the world of breastfeeding by my daughter. Obviously, I birthed her 11 years ago, and it was kind of a no-brainer for me that I was going to breastfeed because that's what your body does. Like,
Uh-huh.
your body is pregnant, and then your body produces milk for that new human or humans.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and then I had always seen a baby on a boob, in my
Mhm.
house growing up or somewhere,
Okay.
some family member. So it was like, this is just what you do. So I knew nothing of lactation consultants. I knew nothing of support groups. I knew nothing of that. I just did it. And it's
Mhm.
unfortunately not until then that you start asking questions because it's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, this kind of hurts. And
Kind of
oh,
until it doesn't. Like one day it hurts,
yeah,
and
until
then
it
you're like,
doesn't.
"Hey, there's no more pain."
Yes. Right. And it's like, oh, how do I really know that the baby is getting what they need? Because,
Yeah.
I say, I love the universe and God and whatever you choose to call it, but nature, but I say there's one flaw. Our breasts don't turn to glass, so we can't see the milk going in,
Yes.
right? So, and just, our long history of being in a capitalist society in America or really Western world is that we don't trust our bodies. Women don't trust our bodies, right?
Right.
So it's like, how do I know? So it's all this stuff. You have this new human, you want to keep it alive, it's like all
Mhm.
these things. So that really started me down the road of, hey, why is there so many misconceptions, what's going on with this breastfeeding thing, because
Mm-hmm.
luckily it did end up working out really great for me and my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I found out, like, getting into it, I had tons of milk, so it was just kind of
Mm-hmm.
gushing into her. She was growing and it stopped
Nice.
hurting. So it was like, okay. And then when I started asking questions of friends that had had babies and such, and it was like some of them breastfed, some of them didn't. But then they were talking about how their friends didn't breastfeed. And so it opened up a whole world. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, let's figure this out. And then, of course, hearing, in that world of breastfeeding, and when you get in that space as a Black woman, you realize there's not so many lactation consultants that look like me.
Right.
And then it was like, well, why is that? And then you hear about the disparities and all that stuff. So it really just opened up a whole world for me. And just, I think for me, there were a couple of main things. Like I said, it ended up working out and I loved it, loved that relationship. I also became a postpartum doula in the
Mm-hmm.
whole after that world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to help women and families postpartum, because I feel like the postpartum doesn't get that much support too. And then
Right.
breastfeeding, like, coupled with it. But
Mm-hmm.
it just all mixed together. And I think that, and then, like I said, growing up and seeing it
Mm-hmm.
for me, and as a medical professional, as a Black medical person in the medical field, that representation matters. It's like when I walk
Definitely.
into a room as a Black lactation consultant to a Black family, it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm. Or more like,
so it just,
whew.
yes. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's super, super important, as you said, to have that that relationship. That because I feel like, especially as a healthcare practitioner, patients or families are often looking to you for that alliance, that trust, because there's already that inherited, ingrained mistrust of medical establishments. Because oftentimes, medical establishments are really telling us, what is really opposite of, like you said, trusting your body, really opposite of what our instincts truly are. So I know that it's very difficult for me to try to overcome some of the myths that are associated with health. So how do you, well, one, what are some of the myths that you've heard from moms about breastfeeding, moms of color, and also what do you feel like are some of the barriers to why moms choose not to breastfeed?
um, I think a big myth is that, again, the not trusting your body, so not trusting the
Mm-hmm.
milk, that it's not
Mm-hmm.
enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then that shows up when, not shows up, but it may validate that lie in
Mm-hmm.
their head, right? It may validate it for them. And they get it validated when they go to the pediatrician, who's not aware if the baby is not gaining weight as the pediatrician would like it on the curve,
Mm-hmm.
or the baby's not sleeping for
Mm-hmm.
long periods of
Mm-hmm.
time, sleeping through the
Yeah.
night. By the way,
Yeah.
I hate that term.
Hate it.
Please, if you are hated
Hate it.
it, right? So if you are a new parent, or you are going to visit a new parent, or if you are interacting with new parents, please do not ask them if their baby is sleeping through the night. A
What
human,
is that anyway? I mean, it's
I
like, oh
know,
yeah, by 6 months they should be doing this. It's like, well, every baby's different, and you
every
know,
human is different.
every
Who sleeps through the night? Who
I
sleeps
don't,
through the
I don't even.
night?
I'm like, some of the time I don't even sleep through the night. I'm an adult, so I don't even,
Exactly. Exactly.
So
All
yes,
of
continue.
these commercials out there for like sleeping pills and all that stuff, that nobody's sleeping through the night. So
I
I don't
mean, come
understand why
on.
they expect babies to do it. But yeah, but especially a new human, if they're sleeping for 4, 5, 6, 8 hours straight, they're not getting food.
Right.
So that's a really big thing. So we don't want new humans to sleep through the night.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but when the baby isn't sleeping and the baby's wanting to feed constantly, they get this, okay, my milk isn't enough, right?
Right.
And there's still pediatricians, unfortunately, out there who are reinforcing that negative right? That it's false, right? That myth.
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah, so the formula, yes, can help. No, I don't want to say help, but can make the baby sleep longer.
Yeah,
But that's because it's working in the baby's body differently.
it's true. It is
And we
true.
don't want, yeah. So the baby has to process it differently, which ends up making them sleep longer through the night. But that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, and
It's
also the myth, just to add to that, the myth about sleeping through the night and like feeding, like stuffing them till they're like full before they go to sleep. I mean, sleep is really a physiologic process that happens that, yes, while formula may buy you an extra 30 minutes, maybe,
yeah,
like the baby will sleep through the night when they're physiologically ready to do so,
yeah,
right? When their body has equipped itself to be able to
exactly,
produce sugar in the middle of the night, produce nutrients in the middle of the night, so that way it doesn't have to drink milk or take, you know, nutrients externally
exactly,
to be able to sustain, you know, sustain itself.
exactly.
So
Yeah. I
so
tell
parents are
new
often like
parents,
trying to rush it, you know, like, I
yeah,
need my baby to sleep, you know, and it's just like, well, the baby's
yeah.
not ready, you know, so
Yeah, I tell parents, like you said, you say it that way. I say sleeping is a learned behavior, just
yeah.
like eating is a learned behavior. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that we automatically do it. Remember, they had the opportunity, the luxury to sleep and eat whenever they want in the belly. Like,
Yep.
so to come out and all of a sudden be put on this schedule, it's like, give me a minute, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you
Can I have a
know?
minute, please? Just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So,
so definitely the myth about not being enough. So I know that I told you a little bit about my story with, you know, underproduction, and also you know, because I had severe preeclampsia and I was on a magnesium, and the baby was in the NICU for a few days. You know, we couldn't really initiate the breastfeeding right away, which, you know, made me kind of sad. I felt like, you know, even in the hospital, which, you know, they tell you, so is it okay if we supplement with formula? And I'm like, yes, but I would like to breastfeed. And like, yes, but we like to supplement. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess supplement doesn't sound so bad. Like, you know, to supplement. And then it's like, they don't even come get me when the baby's ready to eat, or they don't even tell me when the baby's gonna eat. You know, they don't tell you the schedule. They discourage you. You're trying to breastfeed your child. They're like, just give him the formula. He's gonna get tired. He's not gonna want to take the
yeah.
bottle. And I'm just like, I thought this is supposed to be a baby-friendly hospital.
Unfortunately, overall, for everyone, it's almost, not almost, it's like you have to be this, you have to go in. I unfortunately tell my clients sometimes it's almost like you have to prepare for war. You have
Yeah,
to like prepare for battle. And it's not what
yeah.
we want to do. We want to go, we want to meet our new human, we want to snuggle, we want to feed,
Uh-huh.
but it's like you have to really know. So take a class, no, meet with the lactation consultant, no, I call
Mm-hmm.
them like these keywords. It's like, so supplement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Supplement doesn't mean formula. Supplement means
Mm-hmm.
outside of the breast, right? The
Mm-hmm.
baby is getting food outside of the breast, but that first
Mm-hmm.
food should be your own milk.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's saying, okay, we want to supplement the baby. It's like, okay, well, are
Mm-hmm.
you going to help me hand express and get milk out of my breast?
Yeah. No.
Are you gonna bring me a pump?
Yeah, they did offer a pump, but nobody really showed me how to use it. You know,
Yeah,
the lactation consultant, she was really busy. So it just seemed like the
yeah,
time that I needed to spend with her to really help me, she just wasn't
yeah,
able. And I know that's not her fault. It's just
yeah,
a
yeah.
factor of working in
It's
healthcare.
not their fault. And I was actually
Yeah,
having
it's
this
just, it's,
conversation. Yeah, I was having this conversation with a friend the other day. If you are a pregnant person and you're delivering in a hospital, if you have the time, take care of your lactation consultants in the sense
yeah.
that write the hospital, tell them how valuable your lactation consultant is and how we need support too. I was a lactation consultant in a hospital too. So a
Mm,
lot of these hospitals will say like, oh, well, we have lactation consultants on staff,
yeah.
but they're
Hmm.
not really treating us very well.
Right. Right, right, right,
Like the
right. And they
pay
can't
isn't
really
the
spend the
greatest.
time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because there's not enough of them.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, they have a lactation consultant, but if there's one of me and there's 40 people that have delivered,
Right.
I can't get to everyone. Or if I get to somebody, I'm not going to be able to spend that amount of quality time. So if you are like, for the hospitals out there, really treat your lactation consultants well and make sure it's a department that is well funded and well nourished, right? So
Yeah.
that's my little gripe and soapbox. But but
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say from my experience too that support is so important, you know, and although the hospital lactation consultants, do provide some level of support, like when you go home is really when you need that, because I feel
yeah,
like having someone there to really help me and say, no, you can do this, to encourage me along so I'm not like fumbling through the process,
yeah,
would have been super helpful. And although I did mixed feed for 6 months, I was really like dedicated to wanting to like continue to breastfeed, even though it seemed like,
mhm,
in my mind, like I had kind of already sabotaged myself in terms of the production because I wasn't, the way that we started and all of that. But I was like, I'm going to do this anyway, even if it's like 3 drops. It's getting everything
yeah.
else.
Any
But
mama's milk, any human milk is good human milk.
yeah,
It's valuable, so don't discount it. Anything you get out of your breast is valuable. Don't discount it. And I
yeah.
really want, so for those, parents out there that breastfed or tried to breast or chest feed and then they fail. I hate that word. So don't say
Yeah,
you failed. It's
yeah,
you didn't fail.
hmm,
Society failed you because, like you
yeah,
said, there should be support. It's not
hmm,
something that comes naturally or easily to everyone anymore. It's why I
right,
have a job. It's why
right,
this, why lactation consulting came about. And
hmm,
especially, I'm getting back to the barriers for Black moms,
hmm,
especially, like I said, going in when I'm talking to my Black moms, I'm telling them when you go into the hospital, you really got to advocate for yourself. So again,
hmm,
knowing the keywords of helping me hand express, helping me get food out of my breast, right,
hmm,
before I go to the formula. If you choose to, or if that's what we need to medically bring baby stable, then that's different.
hmm,
So formula came about because there are situations where we need to get baby medically stable. And if we can't do it with human milk, then we'll need a supplement. That's
hmm,
where it came about. And that's
hmm,
fine. But it
hmm.
doesn't have to lead us down this road. So that's of the booby traps, we call them, right? So
Booby.
supplementing more. So supplementing more with a bottle and formula than actually giving time at the breast. So and like you said, it's a baby friendly hospital that you were in, but unfortunately the baby friendly doesn't include NICU. NICU is like
Yeah,
its own
yeah,
world. So they
yeah.
kind of get away with certain things.
Yeah,
And so
it's true. But my baby was like literally laying there in the NICU with nothing. It's just the only reason why they put him there was because I had preeclampsia, and because, they're just like, we're going to observe him. But he's fine. He was the biggest kid in
yeah.
there. He was like, no monitoring really needed.
Yeah.
It's just like he didn't have any IVs or anything. He just every time I would go in there, he'd just be laying there, like looking at the like, anybody can I
Like, where
pick
you
you up?
been?
Kind of
Where
thing.
you been? Where you
I'm
at?
like, can I take him? Because it just seems like he's just kind of here.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
whole nother
unfortunately,
thing.
again, like we know, we're in, the Western world, we're in America. It's healthcare is a business. And so
Hmm,
it's like, okay, we've had that admission to NICU, now we got to validate it. So how
hmm.
long are they going to be here and stuff? So I don't want to bash NICU. NICU is obviously needed. The NICU nurses are amazing because they're dealing
Of
with tiny,
course,
tiny humans,
of
right? But
course,
at the
of
same
course.
time, we can do better,
Yeah,
right? We can do better and
absolutely,
we can push to be better.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, so especially like for Black families, I say you have to be a little bit more, not a little bit, a lot of bit more on top of knowing and asking. Ask for patient services. Somebody tells you you don't like something that you don't can I speak with patient services? Let's clear this up, you know. So
That's a good one. Patient
so
services. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, I'm sure everybody's kind of dying to know, well, why should I do this anyway? Because a lot of moms like, oh, I'm tired. I don't really feel like doing all that. Why do I need to, extend myself
Oh,
so that I
oh
can,
my
when
goodness.
there's formula, why would I do this?
Yeah. So human milk for human babies. It's like
Mhm.
there is no, like, as much as we try and think we're like the dominant species or whatever, like humans, we're mammals. All
Mhm.
mammals, they birth live, live young, and they feed their live from their breast, their nipples, right? So
Mhm.
as much as we try and think about it in like this beautiful way, it's like when we all boil it down to science, we're mammals. We have live children. We're supposed to feed them. There is
Yeah.
no other species on the planet
Mhm.
that that a mammal that will birth their child and give it another species milk. And
Mhm.
formula is based in cow's milk, right?
Mhm.
So it's just weird. And even when I got into this, I was like looking up something about, like dogs and cats and stuff. You can't even
Mhm.
get them before 8 weeks because they have to feed from their
Mhm.
parent, their right, because they know if they take those little dogs or cats, those will die sooner,
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
than the ones that are fed. So I was like, how come they will do this for a dog or a cat, but for your baby, the minute they're born, they're taking them somewhere away from you and shoving some other species milk into you, right? It just
Right.
doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. Right?
Uh-huh.
It doesn't make
Mhm.
sense to me. So human milk, again, I would say we're in America, we study everything, even though we didn't need to study this, right? But human milk for human babies.
Mhm.
That colostrum, your
Mhm.
colostrum is milk. I hate when people say, this is another quote that
Yes.
I hate, when my milk comes in,
Yes, that's what
you
they told me in
know?
that's what they told me in the hospital. Like, you're
Yeah.
not producing
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I just keep
Yeah.
I'm not supposed
Like, get
to
on it.
produce
Get on
large volume
it.
at
Exactly.
this
The
point.
baby's tummy is about the size of like a cherry, and that's how much you're producing. So your breasts aren't going to feel like they
Uh-huh.
have a bunch of milk in it. I say this is this like supersize me society. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
baby's out, and I'm supposed to be like overflowing.
Super
No.
size me. Everything's
Like
supposed to be
nature.
supersized.
Yeah, nature's amazing. It knows how big baby's tummy is. It knows how much it needs to produce. That colostrum is packed. It's like concentrated milk, I call it.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Right? So like when you have something concentrated, you don't need a ton of it, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
all of these things. So the colostrum is packed with what baby needs. It coats their intestines. It starts the whole process. It starts building immunity. Your
Mhm.
milk will always your That's the other thing about feeding your young. We are building their immune system. A
Mhm.
formula is made in a factory, and just like things that are made in a factory, it has to be consistent and like the same thing, right?
Mhm.
But everybody is different. Everybody's
Mhm.
body is different. When you are producing milk, you are making it specifically for your human.
Mhm.
So the baby's saliva tells your body what to make. So we've seen, or if you haven't seen, search or, this is National Breastfeeding Month, and next week is Black Breastfeeding Week. So if you're looking on social media, you're seeing tons and tons of breasts of
Breasts,
and
black
human
breasts
milk
everywhere.
shared. Exactly. So if you look, I remember, I'm sure it'll come up, but there was this person, she pumped for her toddler. She was feeding her toddler, and she
Mhm.
ended up pumping, and she noticed that the milk had gone back to like looking like colostrum. And
Uh-huh.
that's because her toddler was sick. And so
Oh.
the toddler's body was telling her body what to make. So that milk changed in order to protect the baby and create the immunities.
Uh-huh.
So it's amazing. There's just so many like amazing things about it. So it's not just also like building baby's immunity and protecting baby and really giving them the foundation for health to be a healthier human, but it
Mhm.
also keeps us, the lactating person, our health well too. So, you know, people who breastfeed have less chance of getting the reproductive cancers. The more you breastfeed, the less chance you have of getting the reproductive cancers, right? Osteoporosis, you know, you'll have less chance of heart disease. It's like it works both ways. So when people say like, oh, well, there's just, you know, I can give a bottle and I can do this. It's like, again, we live in a world where you have choices. But my whole thing, Uptown Village, Chocolate Milk Cafe, we just want you to have the right information so you can make an informed choice. Because if you're only getting half the story, you're not really making a choice.
Right.
You
right.
know?
Don't forget about the snapback. You forgot to talk about that, Alisha.
Yeah.
The benefits of breastfeeding include snapback.
Yes. Again, if you see the pictures, if you ever see someone who's breastfeeding, how much they eat, it's like because your body is working and
you're burning like an extra 400 to 500 calories a day.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do that with any workout. You do. It's gonna take. You're gonna have to work out for like a couple hours.
I'm just kind of sitting around, nuzzling and loving your baby, like. And not only that, but the arms that you get, oh my goodness, when I was breastfeeding, I had the most beautiful arms because you're holding this growing baby and your arms look so good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Amazing. Okay. So in terms of holding space for Black breastfeeding moms, why do you feel like that's so important? Yes, and some resources that perhaps moms can look up to provide them with more support if they are looking to embark on a breastfeeding journey.
So we just found that well again, not we, but again, when I started getting into this, we found that it's like, again, the booby traps are more prevalent in Black and brown populations, right? And again, it's not like I went out and did the study or you went out and did the study. These are studies that are done by the government, right? And that have been going on for years and years. Like, there are lower rates. And it's like, why is that? When you dial it back, systemic racism, right? It's like, because in the system, these myths, these negatives, these stereotypes are passed down. So you have Black families that are going and wanting help, right? And then not getting it because they're being told your milk isn't good enough or, you know, this or that. So for those who want to breastfeed and be successful at whatever your success is, right? Whatever you want, whatever your goal is, I want to help you reach that. We want to help you reach that. So, but when you go into spaces where there is a majority of white or Caucasian, sometimes they're not understanding, like, what do you mean your doctor told you this? Or what do you mean? And it's like the victim blaming oh, you're not doing something. And it's like, we know it's not that. So having this space to talk about that, or talk about how it's not only the medical professional, but sometimes in our own family, we're getting oh, you should give that baby a bottle. That baby's going to be spoiled.
And that's strong. It's often those maternal influences in our families and in our lives that are the strongest influences and determine what it is that we in turn do as parents.
Exactly. So in anything we do in life, we always need support and want support, right? Whether it's you're running a marathon, you're going to college for something, like people will rally around you and support you. But for when it comes to breastfeeding, especially in the Black community, sometimes it's like, why are you doing that? That's for them white people. Even me, as becoming a lactation consultant, get the journey to become a lactation consultant, I would get like, why are you doing that? You're going to help them white people? Only white people do that. I was like,
Lord.
So, but yeah, so having the space where you can just come and feel comfortable and feel 100% supported. So I always tell people too, there's a difference between tolerance and support.
Mhm.
So tolerance is like, oh yeah, you want to do that, good for you, but
Mhm.
nobody's really helping you. It's like, is
Right.
somebody really going to come cook you a meal or bring you some water or help you dial the phone or look up on the computer the resources to get somebody
Yeah.
to help you because the latch isn't, or is it just, oh, it's hurting, okay, well, let's get a bottle. That's
Uh-huh.
not really support. That's the
Right.
right, they're tolerating you want to do that cute thing, but somebody who's really going to support you is
Mhm.
going to help you achieve your goal,
Mhm.
whatever that goal is to be. So as Uptown Village, we were all maternal health professionals and all women of color. Because again, I think the first major thing is that when you're seeing someone who
Mhm.
has done it, and it's like, oh, okay, you breastfed your child and for how long, and you did it and successfully,
Mhm.
I can do this too,
Mhm.
right? So that's step one. And then having the support circles or that you can call or email and we can talk it through and I can give you the evidence-based information. And
Mhm.
then, that helps further along someone in their journey and no judgment. No
Mhm.
judgment. Like no matter what it is that you choose to do, I'm here to support that. I'm not
Yeah.
going to judge you.
Yeah.
So it's different. And again,
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely. I
yeah.
mean, you speak to a few things which are like super important, which is the issue of intersectionality, which I'm always kind of touting is just super important, and why, spaces for women of color in all aspects of our lives are super important, because there is this aspect of systemic, interpersonal, internalized racism that only we as women of color experience. And when you walk into a medical establishment, or even when you're learning to breastfeed, you cannot discount the power that having that experience living as a Black woman in this country does, in terms of how it affects how you perceive yourself, how you mother your children, the choices that you make for your children. And it's super important to have a space to talk about that, and for people to support you when you're trying to really change course or change direction that's much
Yeah.
different from what women, before you have
Have
done.
historically where
Yeah.
so yeah, generations and generations ago, we were breastfeeding. We were breastfeeding everybody. Remember
Hmm.
that.
Yes,
We
we
were
were.
breastfeeding
We were
everybody.
breastfeeding, often at the expense of our own children, other
Exactly.
people's children
Exactly.
first.
Yeah. So we were breastfeeding, and then there was that time and period that it was like, oh, if we can get you to stop doing this and get into the workforce,
Hmm.
we don't care about your health and the health of your children. We just
Right.
need you to be the workhorse, right?
Right.
So, and then it became again this narrative of people don't do that, right?
Right.
So it's we so I mentioned Chocolate Milk Cafe, which is a
Hmm.
support group, all volunteer. So we have the
Hmm.
facilitator. It's peer to peer. It's a volunteer support group, and like you said, it's a safe space. It's only for those who identify of the African diaspora.
Hmm.
So you right now we're all virtual, so it's a
Hmm.
virtual space, and yes, it's child feeding, infant feeding based, right?
Hmm.
And infant feeding of human milk
Hmm.
based, but we end up talking about everything
Hmm.
because it all, like you said, intersects. As a matter of fact, in February, for Black History Month, we
Hmm.
did an Instagram campaign where our hashtag was "We Are Black History" because, again, we've done this forever, and in your family, sometimes you are the first generation that is now breaking that
The
generational
cycle.
curse and and
Hmm.
and, and breaking the cycle, and now can picking up and continuing the breastfeeding because and just even if you've done it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 3 months or six, whatever you do, know that you're breaking that cycle.
Hmm.
And that is really heavy. It's a lot to take on for people. And we
It is
understand that
such a
too. So,
psychological, so heavy. I mean, when
yes, yes,
I'm sometimes in some of these Facebook groups with breastfeeding moms, and it's just amazing how much pressure, guilt that people put on themselves. They can really make themselves spiral into a depression all
yeah,
around breastfeeding. So
yeah.
that's again,
It's not just the physical. So
yeah.
as a lactation consultant, I say when I go in, sometimes, mainly people call me because the latch is painful or
Hmm.
the baby's not gaining weight.
Hmm.
Really, the hour, 2 hour consult, whatever that is, not even half of it is sometimes spent just adjusting that latch. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of it is spent counseling and
Mm-hmm.
talking through. And I always say it's like weeding away through all that shit that
Mm-hmm.
we've
Yeah.
learned by kind of osmosis, which is
Right.
the negative of
Right.
breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we learn about breastfeeding. It's the negatives
Mm-hmm.
that we just absorb from society. So a lot of my lactation consulting is just weeding away through all that shit and like, here we are in the moment. We've adjusted the latch. Now let's talk about what's your goal? How are you going to get there? Who are your support people?
Mm-hmm.
So I teach newborn care as well, newborn care and infant feeding.
Mm-hmm.
And when people leave my class, their homework is to find their support people who are really
Mm-hmm.
going to support them. I
Mm-hmm.
always say, like, your cousin who's like, yes, we're going to have this baby and stuff, and y'all was clubbing. She probably not going to come over and clean the bathroom, right?
No.
She's not the one. She's not the one. You love
Yeah.
her, but she's probably not the one that you want to call at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's like, know who your true support people are, and you're going to need it to get
Mm-hmm.
through,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, absolutely. So it looks like there's a couple of questions, comments that we can
Mhm.
get to because from our audience. Hi, audience. Just want to do a roll call here.
Hi.
We have Tollywog One. How you doing, Miss Chelsea? What's up? Ashley Jones. Hello. We have Brianna, Jossie, and of course my sister Tiffany. What's up, girl?
Hi,
We have some
Sissy.
new faces. Star Birth Botanicals. Welcome. Okay, so we have some comments here for you, Miss Lashanda. So perhaps you can, comment on how people might address these issues. So it says, our society puts up so many barriers and women give up easier because of the bottle than to fight for what it is that you need. So I know you addressed a little bit of this already, that sometimes women don't even know what they need or what questions to ask or what are the trigger words. So, you
Yeah.
have to go in kind of armed with that information, right? And the same goes for
Yeah.
pediatricians, right? Like, how do you kind of approach your doctor when your doctor is kind
Yeah.
of not giving you correct information, or your healthcare
Yeah.
professional?
So I think for the pediatrician and the healthcare professionals, that's kind of an easy one to address in the sense of, so pediatricians have a governing body, the AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics, which
Mm-hmm.
clearly states that your infant should be exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Exclusively breastfed, when people hear that term, it's not necessarily having your baby at the breast. So if your latch is painful and you end up pumping and giving your baby breast milk, that's exclusive breast milk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but meaning that if your pediatrician is pushing the formula, if they're not referring you to lactation, if and you're telling them that this is what I want to do, then that's not the pediatrician for you. I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people, you can fire your pediatrician. You
Mm-hmm.
can fire your nurse on the floor. If you're on the floor and you have a nurse that has an attitude and you don't really like the way that they're talking to you, fire them and get somebody else. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to stay with that person, right?
Yeah.
Just because you made that decision. You can always change.
Right.
So again, you want someone who's supporting you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then if they're saying like, oh, they're telling you something like your milk isn't good enough or this or that, there are resources out there. The CDC is always a good, just blanket one. Centers for
Mm-hmm.
Disease Control. They have a whole thing on human milk.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy people, what is it? Healthy People 2030 just came out.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? I think I haven't read it yet, but there's healthy, like it was Healthy People 2020, which had a whole thing about breastfeeding, because they know the more we as humans breastfeed or human milk feed our children, the healthier adults they're going to be, which is going to decrease all of the diseases, diabetes, heart disease, all that stuff that we're seeing down the road. So
Mm-hmm.
there's these pushes through government to push breastfeeding, human milk feeding.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the Centers for Disease Control, ACOG, even the American Academy of Gynecology.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I forget the
Obstetrics and
way that.
gynecology. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. But they have statements on breastfeeding, so you can do like these research and go to trusted resources. So if you're going to somebody's blog, You know? But if that blog has a link to like a scientific study, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are having, you know, your medical professional that is saying something crazy to you, you can say, well, hey, in the Journal of Pediatrics, it says this and it says that. And then you'll probably, you know, when you present that to them, they're going to look stuck on stupid because
Mm-hmm.
they're supposed to be up to date on these things, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
Um, what was the other part of that? The pediatricians and the
Yeah, and then just and the barriers, which you kind of address, like just being armed with the
yeah,
information, making informed
yeah,
decisions. A lot
yeah.
of times people aren't
So
really
know your
aware.
resources.
Yeah,
Yeah,
know
know
your
your
resources.
resources again. So prenatally, don't wait until the baby's out.
Yes, yes.
Prenatally, you really need to be researching these things and knowing like, okay, who can I call for lactation? Who,
Right.
again, we're not in the world, but like support groups that you can go to, or now
Mm-hmm.
again they're online. But really know who you can pick up and have a list. And
Mm-hmm.
again, make the list if you can't call, have your partner call or so whoever's helping you so you can get the information.
Mm-hmm.
If you do have to, you know, you do go to the doctor and they're saying you have to supplement or you are choosing to bottle feed. If you have medical issues where there are some people who need extended hours of sleep because of
Mm-hmm.
medical issues, right? And they probably, so with the baby waking up on, if you have anything that's out of the normal, quote unquote
Mm-hmm.
normal, reach out and work with the lactation consultant because I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
work with you for that. I
Mm-hmm.
do understand, we understand that there are medical things where people have to get extended times of sleep. Or there may be medical issues where you can't produce a full milk supply because there have been surgeries to the breast or there are
Mm-hmm.
hormonal issues. We
Mm-hmm.
do understand that.
Or
So we will
sometimes it's
help you.
nutritional
Sometimes it's nutritional, right?
or issue of
So
fluid, not lack of fluid intake. It's a big
exactly.
one. Yeah.
So if your plan is to have breast milk in your baby's life, you should have somebody who's going to really help you do that in whatever way is going to work out for you and your family because every situation is different. I've gone to repeat clients, right? I saw them with their first baby. Now we're at the second baby. They thought that they had it and something went a little off, you know, off kilter. So now they're calling me back. So there are many times where we come in and we help you do what works for you and your baby and your family dynamic.
Yeah.
So, but don't think, I think one of the major barriers too is that, okay, I have to supplement or I end up doing this. And then we just go down this road and away from breastfeeding. And
Mm-hmm.
you feel like, well, that's what I had to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It may be, but if you talk it through with somebody, it's easier to be resolved with that
Mm-hmm.
instead of just like the shoulda, woulda, couldas, or
Right.
what if,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you talk it through and you make a plan, I always say we got to make a plan and
Mm-hmm.
short term, right? So when I see a client, like I'm not saying like, oh, and this is what you're gonna do, and then we never see each other again. You know,
Right.
it's
Right. Right.
like this is what we're going to do maybe over the next 24 hours or maybe the
Mm-hmm.
next 2 or 3 days or for the next week. But then we got to come back, collect all our data that we did and figure out how we're going to move forward.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
And sometimes
Absolutely.
it may have fixed the issue, but sometimes not. And then we have to, so it's all breastfeeding, chest feeding, feeding your human is always an ever evolving thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the first 4 to 6 weeks.
Definitely.
Especially.
And what about
My,
being
my hair is
babies
doing
being
crazy
tongue
things.
tied?
It's very humid. It's
Yes, it
growing in front
is
of your eyes.
today.
um,
I have
babies being
a
tongue
comment,
tied.
but yeah, the tongue tied question.
So babies being tongue tied. So what does that mean? For those of you out there that haven't heard that term. So we all have a frenulum under our tongue and actually up here too. So it's all a midline development that develops in the womb. So with some humans, that frenulum may be tight
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't allow movement of the tongue. And the movement of the tongue is what we need for the baby to do this wave and to get milk out of the breast.
Mm-hmm.
But if they have something down there that's impeding them, then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it can not allow baby to get on the breast deeply, and
Mm-hmm.
then they're just biting, right? Because they can only get shallow. Or sometimes babies can get on, but they can't do the full wave. And so they end up just snacking, not getting a lot of milk, and then they want to feed all throughout the day.
Constantly.
So if, again, take a class, learn what a good latch feels like and is supposed to look like and all that stuff. And if you are then latching your baby and there's something a little bit off, right? Reach out to a lactation consultant, because we do an oral assessment. Well, we'll lift the tongue, we'll feel how the baby's like, on the pinky or the finger, so we can kind of get a sense of what they're doing at the breast. But it's both. So a lot of moms too think that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's me. I'm the baby knows what to do because it's instinctual, but it's me who doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
No, it's both of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's or if you have twins, or
All three
it's
of you.
right. Exactly. So it's both of you coming together. So sometimes there are some oral restrictions, we call it, that maybe that frenulum has to get clipped a little bit. That gives the tongue more freedom of movement.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just a matter of adjusting baby to get deeper on, or teaching baby how to open up wider. That's the
Mm-hmm.
other thing. It's instinctual for us as humans to come out and look for the breast and know how to feed, but they still have to learn how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what kind of breast they're going to be on. They don't know that now I have to keep working my tongue, sucking, in order to get milk out of the breast. It's
Mm-hmm.
instinctual, but we still have to teach them. I think that's a big thing that people don't get too. It's like, oh, and they don't want to take a class, right? This is natural. My baby's going to do it. It's natural. Natural does not mean that they automatically know what to do.
Absolutely.
So still take a class, because you're their first teacher. The minute that human pops out, you are their teacher, and you're teaching them the world. And the first lesson that they learn is how to feed at the breast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, we have one more question from Miss Ashley Jones, who said that her son will be 6 months in a few days. She had mastitis about a month ago, and now she's having a huge oversupply. Nice problem to
Mm-hmm.
have, Ashley. Do you have any suggestions for her on what she should do?
Well, it's not so much maybe an oversupply, but with that mastitis, what happens is the ducts get blocked,
Uh-huh.
and so taking the antibiotics and moving the milk, now it's cleared. So now all that milk is kind of coming
Uh-huh.
through. So it seems like we have more milk, but she wants to be careful, because we don't want to get mastitis again.
Right.
So what you want to do is have the baby feed, right? Feed. And when baby comes off, if that area still feels a little firm or hard, you want to hand express just a little bit. Or if you have a hand pump, or if you have your electric pump, you don't have to hook yourself up. But I like a hand pump at this time. So you can manually just drain the breast a little bit. Don't drain it fully. So don't like pump for 15 minutes, but you're just pumping for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
just to take a little bit more off, so the breast stays soft, especially in that area, wherever the clog was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you can keep the milk flowing through that area. We don't want it to keep backing up. But if you drain the breast, then the body's going to get the signal to keep making milk, and then we can have like an oversupply. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned that. It's a good problem to have. People think that, but oversupply is no joke too.
Really?
So
Well, maybe because
yeah.
I feel like I suffered with the opposite problem. So whenever all my friends are like, "Oh, I feel like a cow," I'd be like,
Yes.
like.
Yeah, so that's another issue too, that people don't want to have like undersupply or low supply, so they start pumping from the beginning, and then they can throw themselves into oversupply,
Uh-huh.
which can cause its own problems too. So people that have oversupply usually tend to have ducts that clog a lot more, or get
Mm-hmm.
mastitis. or
Mm-hmm.
are continually peeing. If your breasts are really engorged and full, then the baby's only going to be able to get on the nipple. They won't be able to really get the full breast in their mouth, like more
Mm-hmm.
areola in the mouth. So it has its own issues too. So if you are out there and you're having an oversupply, don't be ashamed, right? Because then people feel like, oh, well, I have tons of milk and I feel like I'm complaining. It's like, no, it has its own issues too. I just
Right.
had a client who she's actually weaning because
Mm-hmm.
the milk was so much that she ended up back in the hospital because she had to have drained. She had to get her duct drained because it was
Wow.
now turning into an abscess,
Mm-hmm.
which is not great. So there are many issues that can arise with these marvelous mammary glands.
Nice. Okay, well, I think those are all the questions. Welcome to all of our new guests here. Ashley had one more question. Would I be able to reach out for a consultation for more detailed plan? Of course, you could definitely reach Lashanda. Can you let our viewers know how they might be able to reach you if they'd like to reach out to you for more info?
Sure. It is up. Well, you're on the Instagram right now. So if you want to DM me at Uptown Village NYC or follow Uptown Village NYC on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
our website is uptownvillage.coop, COOP.
Mm-hmm.
We are a cooperative. So uptownvillage.coop. Or if you can, I guess I can write it in here too, right?
Yeah, and I can also post it when I post the video. I'll also post how you can find Lashanda as well, and
Yeah.
also some of the resources that she mentioned, including the Centers for Disease Control, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, their statement on breastfeeding, the AAP as well, the American Academy of Pediatrics. So I'll also post those things as well. And yes, and
Yeah. And
she
Chocolate
posted
Milk
her email.
Cafe.
Oh yes, and yes, definitely Chocolate Milk Cafe. So
Yeah.
for all of you moms, and it's for moms who are like, could you just tune in if you just want information about breastfeeding, but maybe you're pregnant, but you're not breastfeeding yet, or
So yes, we
okay.
do. So again, it's for anyone who identifies along the African diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
So our Afro-Latina, Afro-Caribbean, right, African American families out there. So yes, if you're pregnant, please, you can pop into a group when you sign up. So if you go to chocolatemilkcafe.com to our calendar, you'll see all the groups. And again, we're all virtual. So you can click on anyone. But when you sign up, it's going to ask you, like, are you pregnant or how old is your baby and such. So yes, definitely. And actually, please go follow Chocolate Milk Cafe Instagram, because like I mentioned, next week, starting Tuesday, the 25th to the 31st, is Black Breastfeeding
Yes,
Week.
it's Black Breastfeeding
And
Week.
we have tons and tons of events going on. So every location, so we have 8 locations. So Oklahoma is going to kick it off, and they'll be talking about prenatally how to plan for your lactation. So how the prenatal and how your birth affects lactation.
Mm-hmm.
On Wednesday, Harlem, that's me. I'll be doing an Instagram live where I'll be talking about hand expression.
Mm-hmm.
And then that evening, I'll be doing a free prenatal breastfeeding class.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then on Thursday, we have breastfeeding through trauma. We have, I have my little calendar here. We have in Brooklyn on Friday, we'll be doing common myths,
Mm-hmm.
right? So those booby traps, the common myths, and talking about the truths of that. We have baby wearing. At Kansas City, will be do baby wearing and breastfeeding. So again, the whole spectrum. We have milk sharing. We have midwives talking about milk. And then we have people talking about full term
Mm-hmm.
nursing. So we have the whole spectrum. So it's going to be really, really great. So if you go to our Instagram, you'll see all the things posted there and how to sign up for them. But definitely, because also our pregnant and new moms, each location is going to be giving away a bag of goodies to help you get through the first 6 weeks of breastfeeding.
Okay, awesome. So many amazing resources out there. So you moms, don't get discouraged like I did. I fell into the booby trap. I tried to climb out, but you know, but second time around, hopefully things will be much better. But thank you all for
Yeah.
joining us. Thank you so much, Lashanda, for taking the time out to teach us more about
Thank
the benefits of
you.
breastfeeding, especially for moms of color. You guys, please do follow her at Uptown Village NYC, and also Chocolate Milk Cafe. And everybody have a wonderful Sunday.
You too. So nice to meet you. I can't wait to meet
Nice
you in
to meet
person.
you too.
And
Yes, absolutely.
your little one and your new little one.
Yes. All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.